Order. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented, pending any changes.
There are no changes to the agenda at this time.
Somebody like to make
So
a
moved.
Made by Mr. Redding,
Second.
second by Mr. Wolk. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good news recognitions and announcements.
Okay, we have our good news recognition announcements again, as has been the case now for almost a year, with our students from various buildings under the direction of Mr. Pope choosing which items to bring forth. And so tonight Mr. Pope is ready to play this month's good news.
Hi, I'm Olivia Cole.
And I'm Ethan McVeigh.
We are 8th grade students on the Jefferson County Conference Championship Boys and Girls Middle School Cross Country teams.
Both teams took home the championship in the conference meet at Larry Kreitz Memorial Park. That's what used to be called West City Park on Saturday.
Congratulations also go to the varsity boys and the JV boys and girls who also won conference championships. The varsity girls placed second at the conference meet.
Now here's a look at the rest of this month's good news, recognitions, and announcements. Mr. William Earl Kirk Sr. is the newest inductee into the Festus R6 Hall of Fame. The district inducted Mr. Cook before the homecoming game on October 8th. Mr. Cook is actually the 2020 inductee, but could not be officially inducted because of the pandemic. He was a 1957 graduate and a member of the first integrated class at Festus High School. He was the first African American to earn a varsity basketball letter in the school, and was not only the first African American mayor of Festus, but the first in all of Jefferson County. He's a 27th member of the Festus R6 Hall of Fame.
Legacy Circle at Tiger Stadium is open. The Festus R6 School Foundation is selling brick pavers that will surround the flagpole at the entrance to the stadium. The first 150 bricks were installed and unveiled last week. The second round of brick sales will run until late December or early January. The foundation will use proceeds from the brick sales to provide grants to teachers to enhance learning in their classrooms.
The middle school began a Student of the Month recognition program this year. 4 students will be recognized in 5 different categories every month. The categories are Academic All-Star, Rising Star, Performing Arts, Character, and the Kinder Student Athlete Award. The middle school counselors and some helpers went through the school the day of homecoming to surprise the students. Students are nominated and voted on by teachers. Congratulations to all the winners.
Speaking of Students of the Month, here's a look at the Festus High School October Student of the Month.
Hi, I'm Lily Nickman, and I am Festus High School October Student of the Month. My mom is Alicia Nickman. I am super excited. It feels great to be Student of the Month. My favorite class is Jazz Band. It is the most fun. I'm involved in a lot of activities. I am the Student Body Vice President of Student Council. I'm the President of NHS, Vice President of Model UN, and I'm a head drum major in the marching band. When I get out of high school, I hope to be an accountant or something in business and math.
Third grade teacher Ms. Julie Warren is the Festus R6 School District's Emerson Excellent in Teaching honoree. Dr. Luttrell, Dr. Roos, Dr. Seifert, and Mrs. Bannock surprised Mrs. Warren with the news during a recent PLC. In her nomination, Dr. Seifert said, quote, "She continues to read and research best practices in reading, math, and writing, instructions, and inventions. Ms. Warren shares her ideas and research with colleagues. Her collaboration and leadership result in a first grade team that is stronger and more focused on the learners in our district," end quote. Congratulations, Ms. Warren.
The 6th grade Character Council has been producing podcasts for intermediate school students. Under the guidance of Counselor Mr. Williams, the students decide on the content for each episode and take turns talking in the podcast. They produce it every other week and share it on Google Classroom for other students to hear. That's a look at this month's good news, recognitions, and announcements.
Very nice. Okay, next up, approve the consent agenda. Pending any changes, do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mrs. B?
I'll second.
Mr. Fadler? Any changes? Or discussion?
Just a couple items there. Again, you see, as this is the time of year where individuals are starting to look at some of their spring trips. And many of our teams do an overnight trip, and one of the long-standing protocols has been that any team that will go over and spend the night and miss some class time has to gain approval from the Board of Education for that trip. And so, again, the last 2 springs, there's been virtually no travel out of state overnight because of the pandemic. Now with things opening up, we do have several groups that had trips planned in previous years or went to a competition, in the past spring or summer, and have requested to go to an overnight trip. Typically, how the overnight trips work is the district will pay typically for what a standard competition would have cost if they were staying in state fees, but then if it's an overnight trip, typically the team members, whether they're booster club, they do fundraisers or whatever, and they will helps defray the cost of the motel rooms and meals. But they have to outline all of that in their proposal that they submit to Mr. Allen, and it's all vetted with him and the principals before it gets to this level. So that's those 3. You see the track and field wanting to go to a meet that's overnight, even though it's actually in the state, but there would still be missing some schooling for that. It's up in Kansas City. And then there's also a baseball team going to a tournament on a weekend in Kentucky. And then, our dance team, Palms, which again have always done a great job performing at all of their events, going to at a national competition in Florida in early March. So those 3 are on there, just seeking your approval for that. You also see first reading of some board policies that we just got in. This is really more of a smaller packet. Mainly some of the main highlights for that included some updates to Board of Education filing protocols. As you know, the General Assembly did change board filing this for this coming typically the 3rd Tuesday. It's been moved to the 2nd Tuesday, so it will open on December the 7th, and typically it goes until about the 3rd Monday in January, but they've shortened that window, and so the window of time will go from Tuesday, December the 7th, and then it will close on Tuesday, I believe that is the 28th, right, Mrs. Stanley, of December at 5 p.m. So again, just kind of outline some of those changes, so we had to adjust our policy for that. They also have some updates in there about recording of events, what can be allowable to parents and members of the community when it comes to any type of recording events, whether it be, a performance, whether it be an athletic event, whether it be a meeting like an IEP meeting, and it kind of outlines, under what conditions could an individual be not permitted to record those. It also even talks about some protocols for the flying of drones over any of your facilities if you have capacity for over 5,000, so we don't have to worry about that at this time. So, and then also you see the financial reports, which, as I said, later in the meeting, Mr. Earnhardt was going to give a little brief update on where we are with the budget and how we're kind of, even though we're only at a quarter of the year in, projecting out towards the end of the year, so you can kind of have some peace of mind as we continue to make some big decisions, you know, in the coming months on facilities and that, to kind of where we're at. And then you also see, which I've touched base with you about, is, you know, the pandemic has been very trying, very impactful on all of our staff since the onset, and they've continued to answer the bell, put in massive amount of time above and beyond last year, especially into this year, to make sure that the needs of our students were met. And of course, one of the emphasis, you know, you've seen nationally is that many times educators especially have put their own well-being ahead, behind that of others. And so we're going to try and, like I said, implement a small mental health and wellness incentive that for all of our staff, whether they're part-time, whether they're full-time, and that was spelled out there. And if that's approved, like I said, we hope that we can communicate that out immediately, and hope that, like I said, that will assist many of our staff with their mental health and wellness and well-being, and moving forward through the school year. So that's pretty much the consent agenda as it is.
Anybody have any questions?
I just have one. I'm just curious. When the students are missing school, and I love the trips, what does that do with the ADA? Do they, because it's a school sponsored?
If it is a school-sponsored trip, okay, even though they're missing, they're not here physically, okay, we can still count them in attendance for ADA because it is a school-sponsored trip. So we will get ADA money on them, but they will not be here physically, and they will miss out on that in-seat experience, but yes.
Okay. And my other question, I guess I have another one, is the mental health in self-care incentive. I read it real quick. Is that, they have to fill out, teachers have to fill out something? Did I understand that?
It would be a pretty, I mean, I think we got it back, and if you click there,
I guess it wasn't on here.
It shows.
Okay, they have to, this is the two.
It's very user-friendly, very simple, and all they would have to do is read through those and select two, and then basically say they're gonna participate.
Perfect.
Turn that in, and then, you know, they would complete that, but they would not have, they've got the rest of the year
I love
to
that.
complete that,
You need to copyright
and they can, so it's really, we try to make it as user-friendly
that. Thank you.
and simple, because we didn't want to create more stress.
Well, it sounds like it's for them. Sounds good.
So,
Thank you.
again, I really think that the staff will be very, very appreciative of that, because again, they have sacrificed a lot for our students. And like I said, and I know you all were the ones that felt we could wanted to make sure we took care of them, and I think this will definitely convey that, those warm thoughts.
Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communications and reports. Presentation from the high school regarding prom.
Yeah, we have our high school press week call for parent-teacher conferences. I told him I'd get him up early. You should feel special, Dr. Smith, because you're actually the first speaking before the long-winded architects and contractors.
I feel special.
And now Dr. Sugar is here going to give a brief update. As you know, we did have to have prom last year outdoor at the stadium just because of all the mitigation. We want to get back to a more traditional approach. However, the challenge that everyone is being faced with right now is, since everything's opened back up, everyone, weddings, parties, proms, everybody's competing for the same venues. And as we all know, some activities can have more available to a venue that's going to bring them more money than maybe a prom. And so Dr. Schindler has been working diligently on trying to secure so we can get a prom venue nailed down for not only this spring, but also next in 2023. So he's going to give you a brief update on kind of where he's at, and hopefully, unless you have heartburn, we plan to hopefully move forward so we can get those booked up and start making more detailed plans. Dr. Schindler.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here tonight. First, I'd like to begin by thanking Ms. She has been our prom coordinator for many years. She stepped down at the end of last year, many years of doing a great job for us. And so we are, hopefully, I think we are presenting the name for you tonight to be approved so that I can pass those responsibilities on to someone else, which I'm more than happy to do. But so in early September, Mrs. Lassing and I, we have been working very hard to contact venues and try to make sure that we were not missing an opportunity to secure a location for prom. And so in that process, I've learned quite a bit about prom location venues and what's available and what's not. So as Dr. Luttrell stated, talking with Ms. Van Bibber helping us out, she said that she usually doesn't start this early, but we have found that many people are booking venues in the time frame that we normally have prom this year. So finding a venue that had openings in April when we typically have prom was a little challenging. But I feel very good about the two locations that we found, one for this year and one for the following year. So I'm just going to kind of briefly describe to you what we look for. So there's four main things that we look for when it comes to hosting a prom or having a prom for Festus. Capacity. We typically have about 350 students that attend prom, which is significant. Finding a venue that can hold that many people is not as easy as what you think, and it causes us or pushes us to find locations further away than what we would typically want to, which is another thing. Affordable prom prices, and we include a lot with that, and we do not want to be jacking those prices up just so that we can have something that is out of the ordinary for our students. So those are the four main things we look for. As I stated, there was a lot of areas, or a lot of venues that were already booked in for all Saturdays in April. We found one for Saturday, April 29th, April 30th, sorry, April 30th of this year, of 2022. It's called For Honor Golf and Event Center. I went out and toured this location myself. There's actually some connections to some of our staff members here at Festus. This venue, what I like about it is it has multiple rooms, which allows us, which has a lot of capacity. We can fit well over 500 people at this event using a variety of different rooms. It has the ability for some of our students to go outside on a balcony. It has a nice location downstairs where you can go outside. And it allows all of our students to be seated and have a meal if they wanted to, with a dance floor as well. I like the location. It's only 30 minutes away. A lot of the venues that we look at that can hold 350 people are usually in the 40 to 60 minute time frame as far as travel away from Festus. What else do we want to talk about? Yeah, we were able to keep our ticket prices, hopefully around $50 for honor. In your notes, I included some pictures for you to see what that venue looks like. I actually ran this by a few of our students, some of my office workers, and when I explained and showed them pictures, they were actually quite excited about it. The next step in the process, after we get the prom coordinator approved tonight, would then be to form a committee of juniors and seniors who want to meet and maybe decide on a theme for prom, and then work through the decorations and all the other that go into prom. So that would be our thought process in the next steps for this year's prom. If we're looking into the future a little bit, since we found that it was a little bit of a struggle looking at some venues that were open, I heard a lot about a place down in Bloomsdale. Some of you have probably heard about it yourself. It's a beautiful location, opened up a few years ago. It's the Artisan, and I think they pronounce it Beige Farms. It's a beautiful location. It can hold 350 people inside. They have a beautiful outdoor spot that's right off of that is for 150 people. They do not have any Saturdays open this year in April, but they do have a Saturday in 2023 that fits right into our time frame. And then, unless there's any major objections, I'd love to get a deposit down and secure both of these locations tomorrow.
Anybody have any? Well, I think it sounds really good.
It does.
I mean,
Sounds good to me.
They look very clear. And the price is right on this thing. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Dr. Shinner.
Thank
Get
you.
a book.
Motion on that or anything?
No,
Or
no.
just- Next up, Mr. Earnhardt, District Financial Update.
Yeah, Mr. Earnhardt's gonna give a kind of, again, a general, we hope to kind of make this an every month or every other month type arrangement where, again, we'll just kind of give a budget update from a financial standpoint, detail about the various funds, and kind of just try to give you peace of mind that, that we continue to remain on a good, solid financial footing because of, again, the strong stewardship that the board's, been able to maintain through the years. So, Mr. Earnhardt.
Yep, so first of all, our budget's in really, really good shape. We're in a really good position as a district financially. In your packet, I did put a couple spreadsheets with some charts in there just so you have points to reference. First thing we'll talk about is our revenues as of today. We're at 19.72% is what we've received. The majority of that is state money. If you look at that, you notice we've only received 5% of our Fund 1 money. We're going to get a large check from the county in December. That'll be in excess of $9 million, so that'll really boost that revenue portion. A couple other things just about revenues. Our enrollment is currently up about 100 students. When we project ADA moving forward, for about every 50 students, that's about an additional $320,000 in revenue. So that's really good for us. We will obviously be conservative with that number that we add to the increase, because we don't want to project more than what we're allotted. And then this morning, we did receive our final assessed valuation. It was up an additional $900,000 from what we approved in September. So it's about another $37,000. As far as expenditures, we have currently spent 24.69%. Compared to previous years, we're right on track with where we've been in previous years. When I looked at previous years, I had to end it September because we're still in the middle of October. We were at 15% this year. Last year, we're at 14% as far as revenues. And then as far as expenditures previous years, we were at 19%. This year, we're at 20%. So we're still right in line with where we've been yearly. A couple more things about expenditures. When we get down to this next section, you'll see that I did add about $300,000 to our Fund 4 expenditures, and that's for things that we may encounter as we move forward with some ideas and some work, just to cover some additional fees that may not have originally been budgeted. So I put that in there just to help us be a little conservative with our numbers. So in Fund 1, that's kind of where we're at. The one thing about Fund 1 and Fund 4, the one thing that will affect our ending balances there is our transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 4. That's usually done in June of every year. The number I used for this presentation tonight was the number that we used last year. So last year in June, you approved a $1.3 million transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 4. So if we do that the same, you'll see we'll be right at $9 million as a starting balance in Fund 1 for the 2022-23 school year. And then our Fund 2 will be just at $2 million. One thing I do want to point out is you'll see that $2 million is more than we started the years in Fund 4. And we're being pretty intentional about that because we know we have future projects coming up. And so I want to have a pretty good cushion in Fund 4 in case we have expenses that are outside what we anticipate. We always know that when you do projects, you're going to have additional costs and things come up. And so I'm trying to be really intentional to build a little cushion in there, just because you never know how things are going to work. The next page is where we stand on our Prop F and our 2021 initiative. So if you look at Prop F, we have about $1.5 million left to pay on the Performing Arts Center. Once that payment is made, you'll see that the total we have spent on that project, plus some renovations within the high school and the intermediate and elementary, some of the things that we've done this summer and this fall, that actually puts us at $16.4 million. So it shows us about $371,000 in the red for that money. But that's okay, because when we go down to the 21 initiative, you can see there we're in the red, or we're in the black at the end of the day at $1 million. So I do have a note in there that we've got $283,000 payment still left on the softball, baseball field, but we're kind of holding on to that until some things get cleared up. And so then at the bottom of that is a list of items that right now, to this point, I have earmarked to use the rest of that money in the 21 initiative. We're going to have to cover the remaining balance on the Performing Arts Center. We're going to have landscape at the PAC. We're going to have some furnishing, some furniture, signage, things like that. And then the final payment on the high school amphitheater, which will come in about $36,000. So all those things together are projected to come in about $612,000. So if we add those to what we have, Remaining in 2021, that leaves us a surplus of $417,000. That money is not earmarked yet, but we do have it at our disposal should we need it as we move forward with some of these other things. So,
Any questions?
good deal.
Thank you very much for that update, very informative. Next up, report from the general contractors on the Performing Arts Center.
Now to the long-winded ones. No.
Contractor.
Hey, first off, we do have, like I said, we were very fortunate to be able to take a 6 o'clock tour of the Performing Arts Center as it nears completion. So I think, again, if Bill, if you want to just stand back up for those that might be joining in us on, through the internet, just kind of maybe give us a quick rundown again of when we think things are going to come together with the final substantial completion, when we think you all might be out or we might be able to occupy.
So right now, on the exterior of the building, we're probably at about 99% complete. Within the next week and a half, we'll have everything done on the outside of the building except for the sod. Sod, we're gonna wait until middle of November when the conditions are a little bit better to put the sod down. The exterior of the building itself is complete. Architects are punching it out. On the inside, it kind of depends on where you are. For the most part in the auditorium and the stage area, finishes are about 99% complete in there. We're starting to install the stage shell. The commissioning for the hoist and the rigging system is going on next week. The week after that, we'll put all the drapes up in the stage. And then the week after that, which would be about the second week of November, we'll do the commissioning on the theater lighting. And there's very few finish items left to do in the auditorium or the stage area itself. So it's in really good shape. Some of the other areas, they're being hounded by some of the supply chain issues that we've been experiencing. Some that have occurred in the past are kind of hampering us right now. We've seen, like we talked about in the tour, auditorium seating was about a month late. We've got it all installed now, but it's pushed some other things back. Glass for the railing has been a bit late. So those things are all going in as we get them. But I would guess that by the middle of November, we're going to have all of the stage and auditorium systems installed, tested, commissioned, and then we'll be able to do training sometime in that first week of November or second week of November on all that. There are a few things that will linger on that we're, at this point, quite honestly, just waiting until we see the items show up. We keep track of items that aren't here yet, and there's probably about 8 to 10 items or systems that have not arrived or are not here fully. We keep track of them every week, trying to find out when they're going to be here, but we see things get pushed back week after week. Most of those we believe are going to be arriving sometime in November. There's a couple of them that we think won't be here until December. None of those, except for one or two, are more than finish items that are just to complete some sort of architectural finish. There's a couple items, as we talked, a overhead door back in the stage area. It's a 1-hour rated door. We don't know when that's going to be here. We've got a contingency plan to put something in. But I would think by the middle of November, we're going to have everything ready for, especially in the stage and the auditorium, for the district to come in and start occupying that and taking over, being able to use those for your, for your own purposes. Some of the architectural finishes, those will be kind of hanging out there until they arrive, but as soon as they do, we'll be able to get them installed.
I think going through the facility, I think the board, I think really was very happy with with the work that they saw and the finishes that were there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a beautiful facility. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, the architects regarding the concept design and cost analysis for the Wellness Center.
Yes, we we finish up. Seems like we finished up one project, we head right into another one. Our patrons were good to us in April of 2019, and part of that initiative was providing funds for a new wellness fitness center, gymnasium. And so we've been at a high level trying to get a concept design. And we're at a point where I told the architect that they needed to come show that concept design. I think we all remember the key elements that we promoted when we did our project. We wanted at least 2,000 seats. We wanted to have at least a 2-lane walking track. We wanted to have a good-sized weight room. And so without sacrificing a lot of things, as construction costs, of course, have, like always, escalated quite a bit since we started the Performing Arts Center. But as we did with the Performing Arts Center, I think that after some point, we need to give, for the architect benefit, some guidance as to what is the total construction amount, excluding architect and engineering fees, that as a district, you all are comfortable with allocating for the Wellness Center. And so I'm going to turn over to Greg. He's going to show you again, it's just at a high level. And then I think he's also, if I'm correct, going to maybe lay out a timeline that if we give him the green light to continue forward, what would be a tentative timeline from here tonight on forward in terms of getting all the concept defined, the bid specs completed, the bid documents out on the street, the bid meeting, the bids received, bringing a recommendation for a contractor, breaking ground, all the way through completion, again, at a very high, level to kind of give you some look. So, Greg, I'm going to turn over to you.
Great, thank you. First, dinosaurs roamed the earth. This was a long-winded part. Just kidding. So, yeah, we're here tonight to give you a brief update at a high level. Again, we've been pursuing the project since we last met from a design standpoint. We've met with your committee that was formed for the Wellness Activity Center on multiple occasions to help us begin to draw down the ideas from the district of what really this facility needed to have in it, on top of the master planning ideas that we brought to you 2 years ago about this facility. As Dr. Luttrell mentions, we're out ahead of the project that's being built, and thus is the case with the Wellness Center. So we're at a similar point we were a couple of years ago with the PAC, looking at the concepts, discussing budgets, and trying to define those parameters, and then it gives our design team direction on where to direct your committee and continue to give you updates and track in a good direction. So with that, we're going to talk design status, budget status, schedule status, and then some next steps that we see. So just a current update. This is the location, approved location for the wellness facilities, tucked up against the existing gymnasium with direct connection, at multiple levels. We're extending the parking lot from the PAC all the way over to almost the existing administration building we're in tonight, creating the new bus drop-off area on the right-hand side of the new gymnasium wellness center. And that's kind of the conceptual site plan that we've showed before. Our civil engineer is continuing to work on utilities and grades with our concepts, but this is the clearest graphic that I have that's now a work in progress. So still the concept very much intact. Currently, our facility stands in a range of 50 to 55,000 square feet. We just recently have gone through a reduction as we do with our projects. We start out with a concept, we get a program, it escalates the square footage, we come back down with it. We drive it back down south, and we go over with committees areas that we can reduce and be more efficient. Right now we're really setting at about 53,000 square feet. So we have hopes of continuing as we move forward with the design to drive that square footage down. It's the number one thing we can control from a cost standpoint, but we're also balancing what the district needs and wants in this facility. So as Dr. Luttrell mentioned, I can cut 7,500 square feet out instantly if I remove the track. We want the track. So we want a weight room that's substantially improved over what we have. That's gone from 7,500 square feet down to just at 6,000. So we're in that process, about 15% progress, and we'll continue to update you. The 2,000 seats, if you remember the discussions we had about the PAC, the number of seats and why. Same situation, each seat costs money. We are setting that limit at 2,000 seats minimum. It will be 2,000 plus some, because again, gets down to the science of the size of the seats and the actual finished design, but those are the limits that we're at, driving that square footage south if we can, but maintaining certain program elements. Briefly, I'm going to go through the different levels. It's really a two-story facility with a third level that becomes a connector to the existing school. I'm going to start on the main level, or the court level, which is at grade. Down to the bottom left, you see the main entrance. That would be at the grade down there, which will be higher than what it sits today, but down at that level. So we'll enter the facility through our main entry area and lobby vestibule. Your public restrooms are connected there. The orange area is the concession stand and its storage area. The large blue square there to the right is the weight room. We wanted to get that down on the first level so that we weren't dropping 300-pound weights on the above people's heads. It'd be pretty uncomfortable. And also make it kind of a feature area. We have a lot of perimeter wall that we can make certain parts of it a feature. We think that'll be a nice tone setting element. You come into the main court area, we've got surround sound seating. If you'll look at the bleachers, those are all retractable bleachers, so we have a lot of flexibility on the court floor that I went over with you a couple of meetings ago about how we set up the floor for multi-stage volleyball and cross-court basketball for practice, and then our main court facility. A lot of flexibility with the seats, so we can hold those 2,000 plus folks in there, or retract it and open up the floor as we need. The blue area surrounding the seating is storage area. We always need storage area directly off the courts, so we're going to look at that and how we can divide that up for various groups and activities, but have it adjacent to there. The yellow areas to the top are the new home locker rooms just off the courts for good access. We have the training area in the red area to the top, so the training office and suite is just off the court where it needs to be. And then you see the box up there to the left with the access elevator and stair that will go 3 stories and connect at each level. That's our main circulation tower connecting back to the existing school. So those are the program elements, the main ones that are on our main level. Whoops, I do that every time. Okay, our next level up is our track level. So the center area obviously is the big open high ceiling court and bleachers. Our track access up above, about 14 feet up from court level. You can access the 2 main bleachers on the lower level and are on the bottom of the plan and upward, the 2 larger areas. You can access the seats from the track, create circulation around. We've got public restrooms in our stair from the lobby down to the lower left, stacked for public use. Then the blue box to the rear is our multi-purpose room. That's where we'll have our wrestling area and batting cages. It'll be a multi-purpose area with some storage off that. We've got our athletic director's office there in the orange. It's a control point as you enter off the track, and actually he's located in the circulation tower for control, and then can have visual access into the wrestling area and all through the court area. The area up to the upper part, the existing LR or locker room, that's the existing locker rooms now that you have, that we're going to go in and remodel that entire area, update the locker rooms. Those will be the visitor locker rooms along with your PE locker rooms. We've got some storage, a new corridor that's cut through, so we create better circulation in both ends of our new facility to get in and out and bring equipment back and forth. We're looking at creating an officials lounge in that gray area in the existing building, a new possible health classroom in that area as we vacate a portion of the existing locker rooms. So a lot of reuse of that area with some general storage back there. So that was one of the advantages of building up against. We could reuse existing space and have renovation rather than building all new square footage to get all our locker rooms and other program elements. And so we're taking full advantage of that on this level. Okay, on the third level, or level 3, which is actually at the level of your existing gymnasium. This is where we make our physical connection, our second physical connection on the upper level. The purple area to the left is the existing bookstore. So we actually break through at that existing stair and bookstore area into our circulation tower where the stair and elevator is located. And that corridor that goes off the page to the top leads directly down your main corridor. Your existing gymnasiums are on the right, and your lobby is just up that corridor. Existing classrooms remain, and that corridor that we show in white going to the right is your existing corridor there. And then we're adding where athletic director's office is now. We'll be demoing that appendage on the building. We'll be putting potentially the new health clinic out there that can then have full access not only from the school but from the outside and outside parking, which was one of the program elements that was required. So everything fitting together, and now we're in the process, as I mentioned, of squeezing and pushing and trying to minimize the footprint, but there's a lot of interconnecting things that have to work between these levels, and so it's a challenge for us to squeeze square footage out and not create functional issues, for the future. So we're still working towards that solution. Okay. So we think it's really laying out from the concept very close to what we had in the master plan, so we're excited about it, the committee's excited about it, and so now we bring the downer, budget. Okay, so again, the design, just as you walk through tonight in the PAC, is the same exact process we handled the PAC with. We have a lot of vision together, we put it down on paper, we have needs, we have desires, and we want to build every ounce of building that we can for the budget that the board has approved. Very successful in the PAC to do that. We're at that same point now with the wellness. We want to keep our vision strong. We want to keep the design moving forward, but we want to manage the costs in an unpredictable world that we're in. So the components of the budget we're going to talk about tonight is the construction cost. Mr. Brockmiller,
That's okay.
Bill. Well, that's what we call you. We call you. Eventually, Bill brings a construction bid to the table, and others like him, and as we've done on every project. Right now, ArcImage is predicting what that's going to be. We don't bring the construction cost. You guys are fully aware of the process we go through. So right now, we're working with a construction cost prediction that we think individuals like Bill will bring to the table when we open those envelopes. You also have a list of items that will be owner cost allowances that we're working with. We're going to go over that in just a little bit. You have professional services from us and legal and other ancillary services that you're going to have to pay for. And then we have contingency factors that we would like you to carry, and the board has always carried those all the way through a project. So, but generating value for all those is what we're doing on top of the drawings you saw before. Trying to have those two match is what we're doing. I'm going to let Roy talk a little bit about this. This is a format that he's brought to you before you several times with the PAC and other projects, and it really breaks down how we track from now forward the individual categories to help the board understand what do we think we're predicting that the total project cost down at the bottom, which is what Dr. Luttrell was talking about. What is the amount that the board is comfortable spending? That's what we're looking for. We're going to educate you on what we think it is based on all the lines up from there. And then that's what we track from this moment forward, making sure we're following those and then reporting back to the board on categories that are within budget, categories that are below, and categories that aren't. Again, our job is to bring to you information, and whether we like it or not, it's got to be accurate. So Roy, if you want to go through some of those items.
As you guys remember, we did this for the PAC, right? You all seen our spreadsheets. This one's a little bit more in depth, but I thought I'd kind of skinny it down for you guys tonight, just to show you that we have allocated certain areas for the costs. That area in the top we talked about is a construction cost for the general contractor. That's when we open up the envelopes and the bids come in, and that's the dollars that we put into that. Along with that, to get to your total construction, total project costs are a number of items down below that. We've got miscellaneous costs, your bidding and your permits, your builder's risk insurance, your utility service upgrades, some advertisements, those types of things. There's a lot of miscellaneous costs that are not in the contractor's scope of work. The other things that we help you guys with and track through this process, we call furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. Especially in a facility like this, we're going to have a lot of equipment that we can look at and get things moving ahead of time with vendors that are out there that we want to look at, talk to, and get some real good, precise budget numbers. Some of those things would be the court equipment, the basketball and volleyball equipment that you need for this type of facility. Any concession stand equipment, POS systems, those types of things. Scoreboards range in a variety of costs and functionality. So we're going to be looking at a lot of those types of things and making sure we get that taken care of, as well as other monitors and other visual things that we need throughout the space. Greg had mentioned a multi-purpose area where we have the wrestling mats and the batting cages. There's going to be equipment in there that we need to make sure gets allocated to the project and where that ends up. A lot of the furniture that we would have, both in the office furniture and public spaces in the lobby, we want to make sure we've got allocated money for those. Your phone, your data, IT, exterior and interior signage, as well as landscaping. A lot of those we want to have as budgetary numbers, so that, as I've done with the PAC with you, we've tracked those to make sure that if there's any changes to the project, we're still within budget, or we've used any of the contingencies. The lower area D is some of the professional services. You've got your geotech services. We're going to be drilling to find out where the rock is. We all understand in this area we have rock. We just got to know where it is. We did a good job on the PAC and understood where that was, allocated enough money, and I think we've worked through that process. I want to do the same thing we did for here at the Wellness Center. You got design services and then material testing services. We got to allocate money for those. So each one of those categories, like I said, in the area above, the general contractors, we're including the specialty flooring and the gymnasium seating, AV equipment, security systems. That'll all be in the general contractor's work. As you know, we always set up alternates, whether you take some of those. We also have line items for that. In both categories, we also want to carry a contingency. I think in our last meeting that I was at, we talked about those contingencies, meaning that we need to make sure we have those allocated within the budget. So as you take all those numbers and you go all the way to the bottom line, that's what we're looking to do, is to set up that number to where we want to know what we're budgeting for this entire project.
Where's your... One point that we've talked about several times internally as a design team and committee is, and it makes a difference where some of these elements hit, whether they're up in the construction cost or they're down in the owner cost category. We always have some in both categories. What we're going to do, similar to the seating for the PAC, is we've got the gymnasium seating up here. We're still going to go through a vendor selection. We're going to go through samples. We're going to bring them. We're going to test them. We're going to pick the one we like. We're going to spec it. And then we're going to tell folks like Bill, this is the vendor you're going to use and this is the seating we want. Give us the cost to coordinate the installation. So there'll be a cost from the general contractor, there'll be a cost from the vendor. But we think that's the best way because it's a major element that needs coordination between the contractor and the seating vendor. On items that don't need quite that coordination, we'll be able to pick them and put them in your cost. You'll purchase them, they'll arrive, and you might put them in. So we're going to go through those, and as we get further into design, it becomes more clear what category they should be in. We want to make sure we allocate them in the right category. But they're always going to be part of this bottom line. And they always have to be tracked with how much we're spending, regardless of which of those categories they're in. It's more a contractual issue than it is a cost issue. So we'll monitor those and give you our suggestions as we go through, but it's basically going to be where we think we need coordination and we want that to be on the contractor, we're going to put it up in his category. So but this just gives you a general rundown of how we track the budgets just as we did on the PAC. Okay, so real briefly, the challenge right now, we're in the design phase. We're looking to inform the board where we think the budgets are at. You need to inform us on what your funding levels will be. Doesn't mean we agree, but we need to have that out on the table, okay? So we need to agree to disagree if we need to, so we can decide what the direction is, or agree. Because it directly impacts the facility size, the complexity, and then some of those FFE items we just went through on the allowances and what we look at. We won't give you choices if you don't want to pay for them. That's basically how this whole thing will work. And again, in the design phase, we're predicting what these major costs are going to be and trying to reach a balance so that we're comfortable going into the next phase, which is the bid phase, with our designs, our drawings, and our budgets, thinking we're where we need to be. That's going to go on from tonight all the way until the night before we send out to bid. It's just, and it needs to. You guys have been through this before. So the bid phase right now, unlike the PAC 2 years ago, we're in a more volatile environment. Material costs, material product availability, labor availability, market activity, all the things Bill just went through that he's been working with on the PAC. We're right in the middle of it now, trying to predict what this market is going to be. Dr. Luttrell mentioned that the costs have risen. Our estimates have risen because of that. We've gotten a little bit more definition on the program, on the building itself. That's risen the cost over what we had in the master plan. But this other market is another reason that's impacting those costs. Again, we're trying to put that on the table because we're predicting what that's going to be, and it helps us move forward. We won't know that until we receive the bids and we decide what alternates we're going to take and what we're willing to pay for that. So, you know, right now, from our standpoint, we're tracking, and we've gone through multiple types of estimates for our 53,000 square foot facility that I showed you earlier. We've used some of the folks like Bill in the market, and I'm not bad-mouthing Bill's market, but they're less able to help right now because they themselves are struggling with what things cost with it, which does not help the architect who does not do that for a living. So we're tracking at about $13,800,000 to $14 million for the building I showed you. That's taking off the square footages, the different new construction, renovation, open area, expensive area, all the models we've used. That's our current prediction of what the design is tracking at right now for the construction value, okay? The owner cost, we're just getting started outlining vendors, you know, for those to get some of those costs in. But those costs in our prediction and our estimates are going to be anywhere from $750,000 to $1 million to outfit the owner costs as we had them listed. Now again, so if you're adding 13.8 to 14 plus 750 to $1 million, you could be approaching 15 million, you know, for the costs. That's right now this evening where we think we are tracking, okay? Going back up to the first line under design phase, what funding level does the board wish to be at? If you tell me it's 12 million, that's fine. I'm telling you I think we're tracking here. We have a lot of ground to make up, right? To get our prediction and our balance achieved. That's why that direction from you is important for us. We certainly want that number to go in the other direction, and that's what we're going to be doing from here forward. But we need to see our prediction right now versus where your spending levels are so we can better direct our efforts moving forward over the next 6 months of design to drive that number closer to where you want it to be. That's, I think, what Dr. Luttrell has asked us to do tonight, to ask from you, whether we get it tonight or soon, you know, before we kick off. But that's right now our current status on where we think we're at. And Bill, you can't remember that number just because you heard that. That's not fair. So, and I can answer any questions about that, afterwards, just real briefly, schedule-wise, I've put down a high-level schedule. Our design process starting tonight, we're looking at completing plans no later than the end of May and improving on that if we can, which if we use that date puts us a bid period and from 6/1 to 6/22. We have an analysis section that we've gone through with you folks, and then a recommendation and an award by the end of June. Our permit process runs consecutive with our bid period and would be, in theory, we'd have some of the permitting completed by the end of June, which would allow a selected contractor to begin mobilization and construction period, let's call 7/1. Towards the end, we're thinking this is a 15, 16-month process for construction. But as we did with the PAC and every project we've done, that'll be part of the bidding documents. We'll have that as, what can you build it in? And we'll use that as part of our award process. Those months difference between bidding contractors has an impact on who we select. So ultimately, again, they'll give us the price and they'll give us the construction period. I'm sure in that period of time, I'm hoping they're clear, our industry's clearer on materials, on availability, and we still won't be having that conversation. But that's why that will have to we'll have to wait until that bid period to tie that date down, because again, they're already having difficulty at this point in time. So that's our high-level schedule. We would have updates to you periodically in our next steps. In December would be our next one for the board, and then periodically after that, probably once a month or every other month at the latest, we would have updates for you on all those categories. We've submitted our contract to Dr. Luttrell for your review. We would like to continue the committee work sessions that we've had. We continue to work with the city in preparation for permit submittal. We're going to continue to refine our documents and concepts, and then track our budget and our schedule at all times. So that's our update tonight, and if I could answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Anybody have any questions for the architect's write-off?
I don't. If a company tells us we can get it done in 15 months, but they can't get bleachers, we don't hold that against them, do we?
Since we're all moved into a different world here in the last year with this, I think there are ways that we need to have verification at bid time. Part of our analysis of their bid and their time frame will be some sort of verification of what they have from the major vendors. Yes, I think that's good. You're going to be seeing more and more of that. So it won't just be a line item on the bid form. It'll be some sort of verification from major vendors that there is some reality to the schedule.
Yeah, but they're with the, if they can't get it to us, how can we hold that?
If it's sitting on a boat in Los Angeles, there's where we just become human beings again, not businessmen, and we look at it and we go, have you, from the day you were awarded the contract, vendor, did you do your due diligence? Did you put in your orders in a timely fashion? Have you done everything that you possibly can? I think those are things that we're going to be checking more nowadays than we ever have before. And yes, you're correct. At that point, we have to then rely on them to augment their schedule, readjust their schedule, their critical path, to be working on things that they can to make up as much ground as possible.
One more thing, materials, they still going up, have they leveled off yet? Are they finally going back down, or what?
Depends on which one you're talking about. Wood has leveled off and is coming down again. I don't know why it went up, I don't know why it went down, why it leveled off. I can tell you the thing I'm more worried about is material availability. Kind of like cars and houses, people are beginning to pay more just so they can have them. We've got a 6-month lead on bar joists. I don't know about you, Bill, but 6-month lead on bar joist messes up every critical path schedule he can do. So that's the volatility we're in.
Let's order those now then.
Huh?
Let's order those now then.
So it's I'm hoping, actually that during our design period, which is going to be that late May, 1st of June, by then maybe we've got a trend that's in the positive, with it. These things are cyclical. We've all been around. I've been doing this for 40 years. Gas was high once. Now it's low. these things do come around, and generally they don't drop and stay, they drop and they're higher than they were, you know, but I'm hoping we got some control, you know, as we move forward in the next 6 months.
Anybody have any ideas or where they thinking the cost should?
In your guesstimate, did you, like, how much higher is it, the number you threw out now, as it would have been a year ago? You have-
We were at, our estimates this time, maybe a year and a half ago, we were in the 12 to $13 million range. So we're $1.5 million higher than that now, and the building has not changed drastically from where we were. It's increased by a few thousand square feet, but
It went up that much.
yeah, yeah. And I've just had a little contractor, Birdie, sometime this evening tell me that the market is still difficult for them to be on budget with things. So that's the struggle we're at.
And then Greg, can you clarify, just so no one's confused, that your construction cost, you're saying is 13.8 to 14 million. Owner furnishings that are earmarked as owner provided, estimated between another 5 to 750,000. And then all of the design, the architect and engineering fees is an additional 7%.
That's correct.
So that, which is also, I mean, so really you're getting up there to close to 16 million is what he's, I'm just so you, because we will have
15 and a half.
architect and engineering, the owner supplied and construction. So I mean, I'm saying it's, I want to make sure everybody's clear on that, because it's all compartmentalized, but it's still all part of to get the project done. And like I said, we will come in at the Performing Arts Center, and we're gonna come in, what we allocated for construction and furnishings, a little bit under 14 million. But again, we still have architect and engineering fees that we have paid out on top of that, which we knew going in. So I'm just saying, you gotta make sure you're clear on keeping that part straight, because architect and engineering fees are a percentage of the total project, so.
Then I don't wanna get halfway through this and, okay, we'll Ameren 50,000 more, the city wants another 5 to 10, I mean, can't have all that.
Personally, I think I'd like to stay somewhere right around the same cost as what we did the Performing Arts Center for. But minus the fees for the architects and that.
Yeah, the comparison between the two buildings, and again, I hear what you're saying. They're big projects, they're important projects, and that's where the comparison stops between these two facilities, okay? When we talked about the PAC, and it's true, it's a complex building because of the systems that are in it, the riggings that are in it, the specialty design elements that are in it, make that a complex but a unique, maybe is the better word for it. Over here on this side, we've got a large box, but we've got a lot of equipment and we've got a lot of systems that interact, and we've got a more difficult site over here than what we have, and we've got a lot of interior renovation, repurposing some of your existing building that we did not have, you know, at the PAC. So from the cost standpoint, we look at them completely different. You know, our site work costs over here probably won't be as extensive, but they're going to be close. We've got a lot of fill to bring in, you know, here, bringing the site up to get our grades to work between the two. We knew that. At least we're not chopping rock out, we're filling over it maybe some this time, which is nice. So again, when you're arranging these costs between the two projects, it's not because the buildings are comparable. You know, this is a 53,000 square foot facility, you know, with multiple levels. But again, that's the direction, and you know that we're looking at. Just don't want you know, comparing the two apples to apples, because they're really not the same building. So the construction value, and Dr. Luttrell, correct me if I'm wrong, if we take the fees out, I'm trying to get back now to, you know, your talk about what that is. The construction value of the PAC with the owner supplied furnishings, I think is gonna be in that 14, if I'm not mistaken. Okay,
Slightly under.
so don't go lower.
I'm just saying, we're right there.
You help me? 14 million. We're looking at 15 million apples to apples costs in that range without the professional fees for both. So we're, again, as I mentioned, we don't quite agree on our prediction right now, but I've got direction on where we need to go. Then my job is to report to you every month or two, how are we doing on that? Is that fair? Because again, I'm predicting people like him will open the envelope and say what the market really says this building costs. But that's what we're shooting for. And I think that's a reasonable range for us with alternates that we can put on the plan. We'll let you know what those alternates are. When we go through your owner list of a $750,000 worth of owner's equipment, there's going to be good, better, best scoreboards. You won't see many of the bests, right? We're going to be in that better, which is what I told you to begin with. That's where we're going to be in that range. I think that's where we're going to make up some of this and try to. But we've got a whole $1 million of owner costs that we've got to really define by looking at products. So I think that's going to be a real clear indicator of if we can make some cuts there that are acceptable. Again, whether it's up there or down there, it's affecting the bottom line. So we've got a lot of categories to work with right now. As we start shutting those down, we need to let you know how we're doing.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So I'll take that as my direction, that we gotta work that $1 million difference between my prediction and your desire right now.
Is everybody good with that?
Yep. So you'll come up with an architect's estimate and you'll show that to us and we can cut. or-
You'll see that sheet filled out on
Yes.
what we think those categories, and then we'll adjust that every time we show you. We're gonna show you an adjustment of that. Because again, those are predictions until the time we open an envelope and write the real numbers in there, okay?
So when will be the first time we see the first,
We'll have that in December,
okay.
along with the updated plans. And again, when we make a change to where the committee thinks we're going with this, because they've got a different level of understanding of those design drawings than you do, we spent hours with them going over them. So I'm not going over the detail that we have them. When we make a substantial change there to help save dollars, I'm gonna bring that back to you and go, we made these changes, to the design that you in 15 minutes can't possibly see. So you're aware, if you wanna go, now wait a minute, I don't think that's an area I wanna cut. Well, then we'll debate whether we gotta put that back and then raise that dollar value again and find it someplace else. But only on the substantial things. Because your committee's doing a great job of working with us to maintain. They are certainly not trying to expand the scope. They definitely are, and we are too. We're trying to push it. I would like to be pushing it and get the maximum amount out. It'd be great to have an extra $1 million, but I'd rather have it in a building that's going to be there 40 years. But that's me personally. So, okay, I think I have everything we need.
Hopefully longer than 40.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Superintendent's Report.
Mr. Earnhardt, you want to get the lights? Okay, just a couple things. Like I said, I touched earlier on enrollment. Our current enrollment as of today was 3,240. Like I said, that is an increase of about 120, 121 from the same point in time last year. However, of course, the most important thing is what our average daily attendance is, because that's what we get paid on. Our average ADA thus far has averaged 3,052. And you can kind of compare that as Mr. Earnhardt pointed out earlier, was our final ADA number last year in May when we concluded the year was 2941. So we're up about 114. Now that's going to go down as we head into the winter because again, people get sick and we don't want them coming when they're sick and feeling well. But if we could still wind up even with a plus 65, 70 ADA, that's again going to mean more dollars, translate to more dollars in revenue, which is always a good thing rather than being in the reverse where you're losing dollars. And then real quick on the COVID-19, sure we send out those COVID reports daily. Our health staff continue to work hard. Our dashboard is out there for people to view, and it does get a lot of view. Even people in other districts look at it because I'll get phone calls from other soups asking me about different things on it. But our trend is no different from what other districts are experiencing. Our trend the last several weeks have been seeing a downward spiral, which is good. As of this morning, from last night, we were monitoring basically 2 active positive cases. And out of that, there were, including those 2, there were like 13 quarantines, okay? Close contacts plus those 2. I talked with other superintendents in adjoining districts. Their numbers same, 6, 5 active cases. I mean, everybody's kind of seeing that, but as we know, every time in the last 18 months, we've kind of felt we're out of the woods. It kind of ticks back up with Halloween coming, the holidays. We're just going to have to continue to be diligent. But as I said, that the biggest thing we can do that in addition to our daily protocols is, again, as we head into these winter months ahead, is really be mindful to everyone that if you're sick and feeling bad, you need to stay home, because that's going to be one of the best prevention, which again is a total different mindset. We do have our own healthcare professionals had reached out and have some plans once the vaccine for the age 5 to age 12 group is available, that we hope that we can partner with an area pharmacy that can come in and do some clinics for those that want to take advantage of it. We'll send that out once it comes. But other than that, I think, like I said, we've had a really good first quarter of school year. From where we were back at the beginning, not knowing how things are going to transpire, I'm really pleased with the way that our student, staff, parents, and school community have all partnered together to make this work. That's my report.
Thank you very much. Prior new business, approve a bid for the sidewalk connection at the Festus Middle School.
Yes, the only item here on this month is, like I said, whenever, you heard me say a couple months ago that whenever they put the Burns Farm and made that subdivision in Birchwood Estates, part of the agreement and the planning and zoning did with the developer was they said, look, so many homes as you're putting back there, why not put a sidewalk in some portion of it that will lead up to the property of the school, which adjoins the middle school. And so we agreed that if they put the sidewalk connected to our property, we would then take it and adjoin it on to where students could walk, and then take their sidewalk, either go right and go down to the middle school to the crosswalk and go in the building, or they could go left and take the sidewalk around Prior Drive, around the edge of the middle school, over to that crosswalk there, to the sidewalk along the elementary school, and then get anywhere on campus safely. And I did put in your in the handout there. I mean, if you click on that active, in those bids, I think about the last page of that is kind of a rough estimate. I mean, it kind of shows the pictorial as we're in the white there, where the sidewalk will come up, and then like I said, it'll go left down to the crosswalk if you want to get to the middle school, and then the area in light blue, which we had that bid as an alternate, but we've decided we might as well do them both. So you can come up, and then they can again go to their left and walk along and join the crosswalk over there by the elementary school, and then get around campus safely that way. So we had three separate vendors that were contacted that did submit a bid. 2 of the bids, like I said, were very close. There was one that was a little bit out of sync. We contacted that person, and the vendor said no, their numbers were right, and that then they just said they couldn't go lower than what they had bid. So we basically had the 2 low bids there, and like I said, I recommend that we accept, that the district approve the low bid for this project. And the like I said, the project, when you add up, like I said, the low bid is from Joker's Paving in the amount of $21,460. Like I said, that next lowest bid was $23,196.50. So like I said, I recommend the low bid. Joker's Paving has done a lot of work around the district, and we've always been good partners with them. And yeah, I recommend that they do approve their bid to pour the sidewalks so we can get it in before winter sets in, because I do get phone calls those parents are ready for their children to begin using that once we get it into place, and they will be put into our bid specifications. We have talked with the city, and we're all good on, like I said, our bid specs in terms of width and ADA, so forth.
Anybody have any questions?
So property owners, they don't have a problem?
We have, like I said, we've reached out to, again, the developer as well as some of the, again, what do you call it, the home association, and asked for clarification, and they said that, again, that there was no current legal action or anything, and that they, so I mean, I feel good about, about putting it in, and I would have thought by now, especially as long as we've left it hanging out there where they know what's happening, there would have been more noise that we would have picked up on and heard, especially as we've had vendors out there looking at measuring up, and since, like I said, since late July, I haven't had any static on it, so I'm optimistic that once it goes in, it will be a good thing, and I do think the homeowners association is working with some of the homeowners in that area that might allow them some modifications that will allow them to maybe do some things that maybe other homeowners can because of this sidewalk there, that maybe put a fence, they want to put some type of a fence that they will allow. That was the main question.
So we're gonna hook a 5-foot sidewalk to that 3-foot that they've got there?
Ours has to be because of ADA.
Well, it should be, and so should the other one.
And so ours, ours, but it's gonna kind of round out, and then, so it's not all of a sudden just boom, and then boom. So, but no, ours has to be the 5-foot to meet ADA compliance and that. But again, and that's one thing we checked on, again, because it's a private subdivision, they do not have to go through this, to the same degree of specs as a public entity does. So, but again, we're gonna do it right, but it's still gonna work out.
It's what it is.
Yes.
Somebody like to make a motion to accept the bid from Joker's Paving?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the bid from Joker's Paving in the amount of $21,460 for the sidewalk.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Bradley. I do have one more thing. Where it went behind the parking spaces, are we gonna move the parking spaces out into?
We are losing 2 spaces.
Yeah, but like, where it's running behind where all the cars park now, on that picture, is that gonna be off the existing parking lot, or is that gonna come onto what our existing parking lot is there?
It comes off of it, off to the edge
So,
of the way.
but here's what I was,
Yeah, no, I've walked it. And
the part when they come up and make the right and go behind the cars, that's gonna be beyond the existing parking lot? Or is that gonna be taking part of the existing parking lot away?
It's not,
For this
the way
year.
I understand it, when I walked it, it was not taking part of it away.
Okay, so there's enough room there without having to remove a lot of trees to get that done, or?
Correct.
Brush, okay.
For the portion that we're putting in, yeah, no.
Okay.
Now, later on, if we want to clear more on each side of the sidewalk up to where you go, there will be some, but so far, we're just going to clear it up to where we can, because we still want some of that
We're gonna lose 2 spots for a 5-foot sidewalk.
for the,
So for the
when it
dumpster?
goes down. The dumpster is, we're actually, if you see, we're pouring a concrete pad to move that recycle bin, so we're actually losing 2 down when they have to cut across into the
Okay.
crosswalk, but then we're gaining at least 2 back. We're gaining 1 back whenever we move that recycle bin to a concrete pad on the diagonal. It's, you can see
Perfect.
it,
Yeah,
that little
Okay,
small.
right there.
We have a motion from Mr. Wolk and a second by Mr. Fadler. No other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And Lynn, please note that Mr. Redding did not take part in any of those conversations. Okay, anybody else have anything for open session? If not, I'll entertain a motion with roll call vote to enter executive closed session with a closed record and vote pursuant to RSMO 610-021, sections 3, 13, and section 2.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Stanley, would you pull the board, please?
Mr. Edding?
Yes.
Mr. Fadler?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes.
Mr. Abrams?